Welcome to the IIBA Tampa Bay, Florida chapter. This is our study group for January 30th, 2025. This is our 149th study group. Today we have the very great pleasure of having RianatAbbas to talk to us. She's going to talk to us about embedding cybersecurity in our business requirements gathering. It is such a good thing to do, and so she's going to lead us on that journey. But first, a few announcements. My name is Thea Soren. I am the president of this chapter. I'm also a founder of the BA Force Multiplier movement. I helped author the business analysis body of knowledge and a few other things. All that stuff means I'm here to help you. If you have any questions, if you need assistance, if you want advice, please reach out to me through LinkedIn and I'm going to do my very best to help you. We like to celebrate our wins. These are the folks that have said our study group helped them receive and achieve their certifications through the BABOK. And so we really are appreciative that they reached out to let us know, because that's how we get paid. We want to know that we were beneficial. So if we have helped you, please let us know. This is our board of directors. These folks have come together to make this chapter successful and to serve each of you. Give them your love and let them know that you are being benefited from our chapter's meetings. Our mission here is to equip business analysts with knowledge, tools, and support needed to excel in their roles through targeted training, mentorship, and fostering a professional community. We empower business analysts to drive impactful decisions, collaborate closely with stakeholders, enhance organizational efficiency, and elevate the practice of business analysts, because we are the Tampa Bay IIBA. We have members from all over the world that are members of our chapter. We don't care where you live. If we can serve you, if we can benefit you, and nobody else is able to help you, you can be a member of our chapter. We're good with that. So if you don't have a chapter and you can't find a chapter, Tampa Bay is your chapter. We've given you several ways to reach out to us and for us to provide service to you. This is our 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern study group every Thursday night. We have our meeting recordings on YouTube, but as you can guess, with over 140 of them, it's kind of hard to find what you're looking for. So Bob Churchill has put together Bob's Incredible Index. We called it that, not him. At rpchurchill.com, if you go there and look at the Tampa Bay IIBA, you can see the list of everything either by date. He has also it by topic. He has it also by which part of the CBAP it's in, or by the speaker. We also have our Tampa Bay website. It is right here, tampabay.iiba.org. We have our calendar of events, and we're working on creating a newsletter to be beneficial to you as well. Kudos to those folks in the editorial and website committees. Bob and Esther are our study group advisors. We do appreciate all of their work, and we want to say thank you to them. We are working on branches. We have someone interested in starting a Tampa branch. I got contacted this week. There's someone interested in an Orlando branch. So if you're interested in having a branch near you, reach out to me and we'll see what we can do to get that started. Talking about the elephant in the room, we've got lots of skilled people. We've got lots of jobs. We need the matchmaker. So I'm being a matchmaker. So if you are looking for a job, reach out to me. If you know of jobs, reach out to me and I'll try to get you connected with what you're needing. We have associations that we partner with, the Tampa Bay Women in Agile and the Tampa Bay Product Group. We're getting ready to have a joint meeting with them coming up very soon. I think that's on the 13th. Then the IIBA chapters in Bluegrass, Ireland, the Philippines are partners with us that we help them, they help us. It's a wonderful thing. Our emerging professionals, these are college students, and we want you to stand out from the crowd. So we want you to be able to graduate college with not only a degree, but a professional certification and a membership in a professional organization. It's going to make you stand head and shoulders above all of the rest of the people that you're graduating with. If you're interested in learning more, you can check here with our Director of Emerging Professionals, Kennedy Davis. or you can reach out to me and I'll be glad to put you in touch with her. The University of Tampa has recently reached out. They have a class that's specifically for business analysis. We're working with them. Watermark Learning has given us 40% off of their products. The Watermark CBAP study guide was instrumental in my earning my CBAP. They also have flashcards that people love and their test bank questions. They have a lot of other topics too, but that's the one that I've focused on. 40% off of something is pretty good. Give them some love whenever you are buying something from Watermark. The discount code from Adaptive US is 20% off of all of their live classes on demand courses, excluding the IIBA exam vouchers. Adaptive US does something kind of unique. If you take a class from them for the CBAP, they guarantee you will pass. If you don't pass the first time, they'll pay for you to take it a second time. If you don't pass the second time, they'll pay for you one more time to be able to take the certification. So it's a pretty good deal. And our local conference in Orlando, the Project Summit Business Analyst World is going to be in Orlando May 5th through 7th. Right now, they do have a discount code for their group rates if you're interested in participating. And tonight, Abbas is going to be talking about the security, getting the cybersecurity business requirements. I'll let her introduce herself more in just a few minutes. On February 6th, I'm going to be teaching the RACI technique. This is a 2-hour workshop where you're actually going to be doing the RACI technique hands-on. It's virtual, but it's still hands-on. I'm going to need 5 volunteers to actually be participating in this so you can see how it works and you can then take it and go back to your work and use it immediately. On Wednesday, February 5th, we've got a member webinar for the IIBA, Data Governance Organizational Change Management. And then next week on February 6th, in the evening in our study group, we have What is the Safe Train? Those of you who have heard Agile, maybe worked Agile, but you don't know SAFe, she's going to explain what SAFe is. It's a whole lot on top of Agile. And if you're even interested in going into a large organization that's doing software development, you need to know these terms. On February 11th, the Bluegrass chapter has leveraged design thinking to drive value to your customer's workshop. Design thinking is a big deal. Organizations, corporations, companies are wanting people that understand design thinking. I encourage you to participate in this or find something on your own, but understand what design thinking is. And then on February 19th, we've got a public event for the IIBA that's going to be talking about AI. Guys, if you haven't plugged into AI, you need to plug in. People that know how to use AI are going to be the people with jobs in 4 years. And then on February 13th, the group the joint meeting with the Tampa Bay Women in Agile and the Tampa Bay Product Group, we're going to have that. We're going to have lightning talks. We have a few people from their group that are going to provide lightning talks, just 5 to 10 minute talks on a topic about Agile. And then we're going to open it up to y'all. We want you to step up and provide a lightning talk. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me and I'll be sure that you get on the schedule. February 20th, there's going to be an event in Tampa that they're going to drop golf balls. And the reason for that is they're raising money for their interns. They provide interns to organizations in Tampa. The first place prize is $2,000. So if you're interested in that, it's available to you. On February 20th, Howard Padisa is going to be talking about story mapping. Guys, I've been to his classes. He has written best-selling books that you guys probably have on your shelves if you have anything about business analysis. He talks about story mapping in a way that makes it easy to understand, and you can take it back to your organization easily. On the 27th, Jody and I are going to be talking about dysfunctional mapping. This is just a taste of it because it takes a lot of very robust techniques and puts them sequentially, so it makes perfect sense. And then for the month of March, we're going to actually go through a real SDLC project. Those of you who do not have SDLC, software lifecycle development, on your resume, work through this with us, understand what it is, and you'll be able to say you participated in a exercise. We're going to walk through this. So now I'm going to, oh, I'm sorry. And then the data and analytics for business analyst workshop is March 18th. One last thing, I want to be sure everyone knows, if you're looking for a job or if you see jobs in your feed on LinkedIn or on your email and they're in the United States, please drop them into this group. This group is just to help people. I mean, we're not getting anything out of it, but we're trying to share this. I've got 15,000 contacts and you don't see the same posts I see. So I put them in here so you can see them. I've got the same type of group for Canada, but I don't see so many jobs for Canada. If you see jobs, here's a place that you can drop it. Okay, I'm going to give the screen over to our guest. And Rianat, if you would like to share.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, I'd like to say Rianat requested that you hold your questions to the end. If you'd like to put your questions in the chat, we'll be sure that they're asked if you aren't able to ask them yourself. But that way she can do her presentation with completely.
Yeah, thank you so much, Thea. It's nice to be here, everyone. And excuse me. Okay, so before we go into probably talking about embedding security into the business requirement gathering, I would like to introduce myself. My name is RianatAbbas, and I'm excited to be here today to talk about embedding security in business process and requirements. I work as a product security analyst, but my background is sort of unconventional. I started off as a product manager to experiencing human-centered design before diving into cybersecurity. So this gives me a unique perspective because I have seen how security often gets left out of early conversations, rather, and how that leads to bigger problems down the road. So my focus is on like data risk management, secure software development, and also emerging technologies. So helping organizations to build products that are not just innovative, but also secure. I have worked across fintech, automotive, and consulting, and it has given me insight into how different industries also approach security challenges. So outside of my work, I enjoy mentoring, especially helping people transition into product or cybersecurity and even tech in general. I also enjoy traveling and exploring different cuisines because I mean, just like cybersecurity to me, traveling and understanding different culture makes me better at like problem solving. So I look forward to like sharing insights with you today and also hearing your thoughts and any questions that you have for me. So today, I have like the agenda down, and we'll be going up from like cybersecurity core principles to how do we actually adopt cybersecurity as a core business process, and also embedding these security needs in our business requirements. How does collaboration actually works in secure software development lifecycle? Then security in Agile. Agile is like the methodology that is generally used in most software development companies. So all those things are the things we'll be going over today. So to start with the real talk itself, I put just like a little question here. So that's one of the things I ask myself if I'm working in a company, and either I'm working in the aspects of being a product manager or product security manager. And the question is, would you build a house and install the locks after moving in? And if some of us could probably ask ourselves, and maybe we think inwardly, maybe mostly, if I'm assuming, most people will probably say, of course not. And you would never go through maybe the trouble of designing all those perfect or picking out every detail that you wanted, moving in with your family, and then you are just realizing that, oh my God, I actually didn't fix the door, I actually didn't fix the windows, and I don't have a lock in my house. So by then, maybe after realizing that, you are probably like exposed to like vulnerabilities, and fixing these vulnerabilities at the time you realize they might be too risky. And this is exactly how cybersecurity is treated in so many businesses today. Security isn't built from the start, and most times it is being patched on later, usually after when your problem has like maybe like already surfaced. By the time they already probably discover that, things would probably get messy, expensive, and sometimes the damage is maybe too wide gone. So cybersecurity, as I usually say, it isn't just like an IT problem that maybe some people see it. It is a business problem. It affects like company's reputation. It affects revenue. It affects like compliance. It affects customer trust. And as businesses are moving towards user-centered, customer-centered, there's actually a need to like use cybersecurity as a strategic competitive advantage. So next, if we are now talking about, if we are looking at security as not being an afterthought, then where does it actually start? Where does security start in the entire software development lifecycle? It starts at the beginning. Every business is trying to do something at the end of the day. They are trying to grow. They are trying to stay competitive. They are trying to keep customers happy. Some are trying to innovate. I mean, we have all these emerging technologies like AI, IoT, blockchain moving around, but none of all this innovation, none of all these goals would work if security isn't part of the foundation. So you can have the best products, you can have the most seamless user experience ever. You can have a good expansion plans of, oh, we want to move from point A to point B, but if a security breach happens, all of that can crumble overnight. And this is one thing about avoiding breaches. This talk isn't just to let us know how to avoid breaches or how to ensure that we meet all the check boxes for compliance. We want to talk about how we can make security our strategic enabler. When security is built into business objectives from the start, it doesn't slow things down, unlike like what people actually think. It actually supports growth. Some people see, oh, security might probably slow things down. How about we just like see it or look at it at the end of the product development or maybe after launch? And it also keeps like innovation moving forward without you worrying so much about risk. Risk is inevitable, but it's reduced risk. So instead of seeing cybersecurity as something separate, like something that the IT departments will handle, it is now the time to shift to the left and start talking about how does security actually help us achieve our goals and not just prevent threats individually, from pre-business analyst to project manager to salesperson. The mindset of how the security help us achieve our goals is where we should be moving towards. Now, there is no way we'll go into detail without first understanding security core principles. And one of the reasons why I put the slide there is to let us know what are actually the backbone of security. If you want to do a fantastic work, right, it is so easy to say, let's embed security early, but what does that really mean in practice? And understanding security core principles is one of the first things of having security mindsets. For us to build our security mindsets, just like the way we have guiding principles for good business analysis, like understanding stakeholders' needs, ensuring clarity in requirements, aligning with like business objectives. Security also has its own foundational principles that we need to know to ensure that we are building a scalable and secure software. And if you are looking at it beyond just the technical thing, security isn't something, and it goes beyond just like technical teams, right? It is something that anything that happens to security also happens to the business problems. So we have three core principles that guide that guide the cybersecurity and ways for you to start building your security mindset. We call it the CIA triad. The first one start with like the confidentiality, and this one ensures that only the right people have access to sensitive information. If customer data, financial records, or let's say business strategies that we have in-house are being exposed to the wrong people, I mean, it could be maybe like due to weak access control or any other factors, it could lead to like a breach. It could lead to regulatory fines. It could lead to something that will hinder customers' trust. So that is confidentiality. So having that first C, which is the confidentiality mindset, is one of the first steps towards having a security or building security into software development. And another one is integrity. Integrity is about making sure data is accurate, consistent, and also protected from unauthorized changes. Like if you are trying to access your mobile app or any of your money app, you want to ensure that the way you leave it is the exact thing that you will see the next day you want to open it, right? So if someone can manipulate transactions or let's say modify reports, alter any system logs, how can we actually trust that with our own data? So that is where integrity comes in. So decision making, ensuring that customer confidence is not being broken down, that is where integrity used to like support in the CIA triad. And the last part of like the three core security core principles is availability. When we are looking at availability, we are looking at it in a bigger picture of systems, applications, and data all being accessible when needed. If I need to access my mobile app, if I need to access any of my financial app, I want to ensure that it is available when it is. If it is not available consistently for a number of hours, I'll be worried, right? That is just how it is. It is not just like we are trying to keep the hackers out of our system, but it is also ensuring that our system is not failing, we are having good planning, and our business is not going offline. So what does this really mean to us as a business person or as someone working in the strategy parts of the business? We have to ensure that all these principles should help us make better business decisions. And if confidentiality is breached, we lose the trust completely. And same as integrity, if integrity is being compromised, we lose credibility. And the last part is the availability. If it is not available, we lose money. I can imagine an app that is meant to be making transactions every minute not being available for 30 minutes. It means that they are losing a lot of money. So cybersecurity isn't just an IT concern. We need to start embedding it into like our own mindsets as well. So the next question, like the next slide is talking about why cybersecurity needs to be embedded in business requirements. Like I said earlier, cybersecurity is still treated as an afterthought in many businesses. And if we look at the number, $4.3 million, that is a huge amount of money. And that is the average cost of a data breach. That is according to a recent IBM report. And we are just talking about the financial hits. It doesn't even include the loss of customer trust or the brand damage. So how do these breaches actually happen? Or how are hackers just like getting smarter every day? The question is no. Hackers are probably not getting smarter every day. The majority of cyber attacks don't even require sophisticated hacking skills. They can easily like exploit weaknesses. And when I'm talking about weaknesses like weak authentication, poor access controls, people that are not meant to have access to a particular system or to a particular part of the system shouldn't have access to it, or maybe poorly designed permissions generally. And maybe we know, and for those that really do not know, these hackers really rely on people, because at the end of the day, humans are the weakest link in security. So it could be like employee clicking on a phishing emails or weak password being used because we will change it later, right? So hackers don't really need to break down the door before they can have access to come in. And most of all those things are preventable. If we build security into requirements, we have security as part, or having security as part of our conversation early, we are not only avoiding the risk, we are also protecting business before anything or it's being exposed. So having human as the weakest link and application being 90% targeted by all these hackers is one of the reasons why we have to like shift our mindset into like embedding. So we'll move into like adopting cybersecurity as a core business process. For years now, security has been something companies react to, something that get patched in later or addressed only when there is a problem. But this is not actually sustainable. The companies that get security right from the beginning are the ones that make it a part of their everyday process. So why does this shift actually matters? The first part is it's enhanced security generally. If we adopt cybersecurity into our core business process, it's enhanced security, which we can catch the risk even before it happens. It is more like, oh, before you open the door, you already know who is knocking, right? So you get to like catch it before anything happens. And another advantage is regulatory compliance. Regulatory compliance is real. Companies are being sued for huge amounts of money for like data privacy and all, and rules and regulations like IIBA for those working in the healthcare or PCI DSS for those working in the financial services are not optional. So businesses cannot afford to ignore them. So whether you are technical or non-technical, having a foundational knowledge of what is that compliance or regulatory compliance that is guiding the industry that I work in. If you work in education, if you work in consulting and you have multiple clients, what are the regulatory compliance that guides all these industries is also another step towards embedding or adopting cybersecurity. Another advantage is cost savings. Breaches cost businesses millions of dollars, right? And legal cost is there, lost revenue is there, reputation damage is there. All these things are being affected. So another last thing that I have here is competitive advantage. A lot of companies or some companies are using security as a competitive advantage. I want to use a product that I trust. I want to use a product that I feel secure with. So if I'm not feeling secure using a particular product, digital product, I won't trust them with my data. So all these things are part of the ways to ensure that we embed cybersecurity into our core business process. So for the longest time, we have cybersecurity as a non-functional requirement. I've been able to like work in the space where cybersecurity is being treated as a non-functional requirement. If we look at how user experience, for example, started years ago, user experience was treated the same way. Companies built products first, and later they thought about whether people could actually use them. But that approach actually failed because poor user experience drove customers away. They hurt engagement, they impacted revenue. I can now give my money to a product that I'm not really satisfied using. So the shift has actually happened when businesses realize that user experience isn't just about aesthetics, it directly impacts like customer satisfaction. Currently, if we look at it, cybersecurity too is at the same crossroads where user experience was years ago. And it is not just like a technical requirement, it is a core business requirement. A product can have like the best user experience, let's say the top tier performance. If it is not secured, it can't be trusted. So trust like is a huge and fundamental requirement when building a digital product. So what happens when security is ignored at the requirement stage? The first thing is developers are left guessing. So if security isn't clearly defined in the business requirements, security decisions will end up probably being made on the fly. So developers focus on functionality, they focus on speed, they focus on usability, then they assume that maybe security will be added later. And the next thing is security fixes to become more expensive. So if you're finding a security flaw at the end of development after a breach, it means time consuming. It means that you are probably redesigning the entire system when it is being breached. So just like the way we have user experience becoming an essential part of product development, cybersecurity too must be embedded into requirements, into the planning, into the execution from day one. So how do we actually make this happen? How do we actually embed cybersecurity into our core process? It is one thing to say security should be a priority, but for it to work, it has to be part of the security, it has to be part of the business every day, how the business operates. And that means we need to have a right strategies, right processes, and also right mindsets in mind. So the first thing is we need to build a comprehensive security strategy. Having a clear and structured approach will really help when you are building like a security mindset. And we are looking at addressing security at every level of the businesses. That means for risk assessment, you need to understand where the company is vulnerable. When it comes to like employee training, everyone needs to have a foundational knowledge of like cybersecurity. How does it affect my role? It is an important way to foster and also build security mindsets. And the other factor is use a mix of technical and let's say administrative controls. If you want to make cybersecurity a core business process, you need to ensure that beyond just the technology, you are having the right processes in place. When we are talking about technical controls, we are looking at multi-factors authentication. Probably that is what like the least person on the team can understand. Do we have our 2FA, our two-factor authentication in check? And when we are talking about the administrative controls, we are looking at procedures that guide people's behavior, even in the company. So who get access to what is important? How is data being handled is important. How security risks are managed is also a critical part of it. And the last part of how to ensure that we embed it is continuously monitor and improve security. Security isn't just something that you will set for one time and you forget about it. It has to be constantly evaluated and adjusted as time goes on, because threats monitoring threats keeps evolving, tactics keeps coming in, different tactics keeps coming in, new tools and technologies keeps coming in. So having to like monitor and improve your security into your business process will really like help. And the best security programs that I've seen, they are not just reactive, they are actually proactive. So we'll be talking about the key phases of the secure software development lifecycle and how can security comes in every stage. Currently, there is like SDLC, which is software development lifecycle. And why security needs to start early is an important role of people in the strategic level, like business analysts, like the project managers, like the product managers. They play a role in making cybersecurity a core business process, because they start with the foundational, they start with like the business requirements gathering. So embedding it, there is a need for all the strategic people to be involved and also understand how security works in every phase of the software development lifecycle. So we are going to start with the planning and requirements analysis. This is where we set the foundation for security. If we actually don't get security at the planning phase, we probably will not get it at any other phase. So the first thing we'll be asking ourselves is identify what security requirements are early enough. And some of the ways that business analysts or project managers can tend to like embed it into is understanding what data are we actually handling. If I'm working in the financial services and I want to write a requirement, I need to understand the type of data that we are handling. I also need to understand the type of risk that we need to account for. Like I said, also having the mindset of the regulatory compliance is also important, especially in the industry that you work in. Then having a security as part of the project goals is also another way to have it at the planning and requirements analysis. So at the phase where you are planning the project, where you are writing the requirements, there is a need for us to have the security mindset of how do we want to handle the data that we are collecting. And having the discussion at the early phase will really help rather than having it at the end. Then the next phase is the design phase, right? This is where they build security into the architecture. If you don't have security being written in the requirement stage, it is going to get missed out in the design phase. And the design phase is probably where they would look at every user, every system should have access to only what they need to have access to. So if we design or write the requirements at the planning phase, it will be easier for the software developers to understand where they need to put the security. And the next part is the implementation, writing secure code. We need to like follow secure best practices. There are different tools out there that we can just get familiar with to understand what are the different best practices to ensure that we write a secure code. And also using automated analysis too. There are different tools right now that can be used to detect common vulnerabilities. So things are being automated, and just having the understanding is really like important. Maybe not, it is not necessarily to have like the hands-on, but just having the foundational knowledge of what are the tools that we can use to ensure that our code is secured, and collaborating with developers at the early phase and having to understand what are the security concerns when planning is a crucial thing to put in mind. And the other part is the testing phase. We need to ensure that we are finding security flaws before the attackers we do is important. And testing the security, we have like security testing, we have functional testing. And functional testing is you check if the system works. Okay, yeah, the system works. Then what next? We want to check whether it can be exploited, and that is security testing. So when we are writing our acceptance criteria, when we are writing our user stories, we need to also have this mindset that we are not only testing for functional, we are also testing for security, and we are also running vulnerability scans. What are the common weaknesses that we need to know before our attackers will actually detect it? And we have the deployment phase. Where does security actually comes in the deployment phase? When we go live, when the software is ready to go live and security misconfiguration is not really being taken care of, there's a huge risk at this point. So we need to ensure that security is well configured at the least phase, at the least part of the deployment. And the final security review, we need to ensure that we validate all security controls before we even push to deployments. So these are the conversations that we need to start having with our developers, with the IT teams. Are we testing what we are meant to test? Are the security controls accurate? Especially the least privileged access control. We need to have access to this, are supposed to have access to it. We don't give permissions more than what they are meant to have access to. And the last part is like the maintenance part. And just like in Agile, things are iterative, right? We go in a circular way. It's the same thing when you are embedding security into software development lifecycle. There is regular updates. There will be regular patching. Even on a personal level, patching and also updating your software when you are meant to is also important. And continuous monitoring. There needs to be like continuous monitoring. We don't just leave it when it is done. It has to be continuously monitored. So in the planning phase, the BAs, the business analysts and project managers need to define security requirements. And this is the kind of conversations that we need to start having with our developers and our business stakeholders moving forward. And we have security in Agile. There have been like a lot of discussion around Agile is all about speed. Agile is all about collaboration and continuous improvement. And if we embed security into it, it's going to slow us down. But on the contrary, it is not like that. If it is treated like something like we get to later, if security is being treated that way, then things will get escalated before we even like noticed it. So that is why we need to shift security to the left. We need to start bringing it into requirements. We have to have, just like we have this agile mindset when we are building a product, that we need to like roll out fast, test with our users, and keep iterating to ensure that we meet our customer needs. That is the same kind of mindset that we need to embed into our system, into our process. In the traditional development, generally, security testing happens at the very end for most or for some companies, which means that teams don't even discover majority of the security issues before they are being launched. And by that time, fixing all the vulnerabilities, all the issues will be too expensive. and it will cause the delays that we've been avoiding from the beginning. So that is like agile teams need to like bake security in from the start. Then we are thinking about security during sprint planning. When we are planning our sprints, we are embedding security. When we are writing security requirements, we are putting it into our user stories. And when we are continuously testing, we are also looking out for vulnerabilities during the development stage. Then another part is like security as a user story. I would say this isn't just like something that we see as a checklist. One of the biggest mindset shifts that we have is like treating security like a functional requirement instead of like treating it as non-functional. So instead of saying that we'll make sure security is covered, agile teams can start writing something like, as a user, I want a multi-factor authentication so that my account is protected from unauthorized access. This is more explainable. This is not vague. So instead of writing, we'll make sure security is covered, which can be a little bit vague in the user stories. Being explicit is more actionable. So writing something like, I want to ensure that I have multi-factor authentication is more actionable, and it will also help developers to understand what level of security they need to embed when they are building. And we also have automation. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of like automation right now that can be used to check for vulnerabilities after development. And strategic people or project managers, products, business analysts, even like the data analysts start building their mindset towards understanding the kind of tools that can be used to test for security early. It doesn't mean they have to have the hands-on, like I mentioned earlier, just like understanding this is the tools that we can use. And when the discussion comes up with the developers, they have the understanding of what the tool can actually do. And cross-team collaboration cannot be overemphasized. Security is everyone's job. A big problem with security today is it sits in a silo, right? The security team does their thing, the developers to do their thing, business people to do their thing, and they focus on features. And no one is really aligning on security as a shared responsibility. So security has to be part of the agile product. And for it to be a part of the agile process, you have to bring in security concerns into stand-ups. When we have our stand-ups, when we have our sprint planning, when we have backlog grooming, all these things need to be there. And also making sure that business analysts, developers, security teams are actually talking to each other. We need to start talking to each other because security decisions should not be made in isolation. I need to understand what the IT teams are talking about. I need to understand what the project manager is thinking about when it comes to embedding this particular security or layer of security to this product. So there is a need to come together and have security champions mindsets, and also ensure that everyone is working towards a secure development and a secure application. Now we move into like, what are the actually common mistakes that lead to security breaches? The first thing is how frustrating this can actually be is most breaches that happen, they don't happen because attackers are exceptionally smart. They happen because someone left the door open and we don't know who that person is. It might even be an employee. It could be our users. It could be a third-party agent or a third-party product that we are using, right? So there are different common mistakes. And the first thing is that security that was never in plan, right? So you can't build a house and then you remember that, oh, there is no lock in this house. So if security isn't part of the original plan, if no one says, hey, this system handles sensitive data, how are we protecting it? Then security is just left to a chance overall. So let's have like that security like mindset. How many times, I don't know, probably it's just me, but how many times have you heard like people say, well, let's IT handle security, then the business analyst handle requirement gathering, maybe like just working in silos. So when a system goes down due to a breach, It is not just an IT issue at this point. It is everyone's problem in the company. So when customer data is leaked, we are not going to say, oh, this is the IT issue. It concerns everyone. So having, oh, security, that is our job, is the kind of like another mindset. And also on clear security expectations, we have to like know that we have to be as explicit as possible when we are talking about security, and not defining security in a way that teams can act on can impact the way the overall business cybersecurity hygiene. So let's say you are writing a requirement for a password reset feature. And if you want to write it, you say, as a user, I want to reset my password. That is not, I will guess that is like a little bit like less secure. So having to be like explicit, and these are some of the mistakes that companies or businesses make when they are embedding security into it. And another mistake is like no collaboration. Like, I mean, they tend to like work in silos, like we mentioned earlier. People need to come together. If we want to ship a product, we need to come together and understand the security or all the compliances and data that we are protecting. So coming together will make it more secure than working in silos, because everyone will come together to understand which part of the business are we actually securing and who is having access towards. And we've already like talked about how to prevent this in business requirements, which is defining access control requirements, which is the least privilege. I know this might be technical, it might be a little bit technical, but not really technical, right? So we have to also understand that when we are running a business processes, when we are writing our requirements, we need to also define access control in it. And also the same thing as input validation. Not everything should be accepted. If you are writing a criteria or an acceptance criteria for developers, right, you need to be able to also be explicit about the input validation. We have different input data that we are collecting from our end users. We are collecting things like their name, like their email, their password, and all. And at the requirements level, we should be able to be explicit about how do we want to accept user input. So the same way we are writing user stories for user journey, we are also writing acceptance criteria for the developers that are building the softwares. So helping them to like embed security when writing the acceptance criteria is important. You cannot tell me, oh yeah, the system should accept user inputs. End-to-end should be like all input feeds must validate expected formats. So if it is correct, if it is collecting like the password, it has to be like be validated. And all these things will help us to like move towards a more secure and agile development. And the last part that we have here is like best practices for integration. How can we actually like integrate it into our process? Security needs to be a team effort from day one. How do we actually do this? For business analysts, for security teams, for developers, everybody should be involved at the planning stage so that security won't be like just a technical fix, but also like a business requirement. And another part is security should be part of the backlog grooming. If security teams only step in when the product is about to launch, they are just catching the problems. And instead of them preventing it, they are just reacting to it. And another part of embedding it is like security alone should be part of functional requirements. We need to remove it from non-functional because it is actually a business requirement. So we need to start putting it into the functional requirements. We have documentation. Documentation is a key thing in business strategy. So if security expectations are not written down early, it could probably like impact things a whole lot. So instead of the system, instead of you saying, oh, we want to protect the user data, like I mentioned, we have to be like explicit. We have to be really clear when we are writing the documentation so that anyone reading it, especially the developers, the IT teams, will understand the kind of things that we are looking for, and also for the user stories as well. So we have acceptance criteria, we have technical specs, all those things should be well documented and security should be embedded in those documents. Another way of integrating is security reviews. It should not be like a one-time thing. We cannot just like leave the project and come back to it later on. We have to like embed it into our regular check-ins. It could be like even during retrospectives. During retrospective, we could bring in a what works, what doesn't work. And as we are talking about what works, what doesn't work, security too can come in, security issues too can come in at that point. How can we better like improve this in our subsequent sprint planning and training and awareness? There is no cybersecurity if people are not trained, right? The first thing is you have to like train yourself into like basic security training. And this is mostly for like the non-technical teams, especially people that are involved in the requirements, in strategy, and the planning. There's a need to have basic security mindset because it will help you to write stronger requirements in the long run. You don't have to be a security expert, but having that foundational knowledge is important. And the final thoughts around this is like security should also support business goals and not compete with them. And there have been a lot of times where like the developers and everyone tend to have like a back and forth around, oh yeah, this shouldn't be done at this page. And that is because security is being seen as an afterthought. So embedding it is really like important. And that is another way that we can shift our mindset. Then the last is, and probably I would just like leave us to this, because of time, is what can we actually do differently starting today? From right now, from after this talk, what are the things that we can do differently and why security needs to start at the business requirement stage? It is not something that we can say we want to add later or we want to leave to the IT teams. We have to like start seeing security as not just a blocker, but a strategic enabler. We need to be able to add security as part of our KPIs so that we can also track it, right? So we need to start advocating for cross-functional collaboration, break the silos, talk to the developers, talk to the security team, understand how they work, understand what is stopping them, understand any blockers that they have, understand how you can actually step in to make things easier for them. Having this cross-functional collaboration will actually help. And the last thing I put here is understanding cybersecurity principles. If you understand cybersecurity principles, it makes the work easier for you. Maybe just like taking a random course into like a foundation of like cybersecurity. That will sort of like help us understand and build the mindsets the most. So that is all the information that I have today. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. At this point, I will start taking any questions that you have.
Rianat, that was awesome. You gave us a whole lot of information and you gave it to us quickly. Would it be possible for us to get a copy of this presentation for the people that want to review it later?
Yeah, sure. I will be happy to do that.
Okay. I want to let you know that the chat was alive with people talking about either agreeing with you or adding comments about things that they were believing about this. One of the comments was, the more security you have, the more complex it can be for the user. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think sometimes last year I had a discussion about user experience is blocking, like security is blocking user experience. And I would say that isn't really, that can be seen in like different angle. Complexity, security is not complex. Can you hear me? Security is not like complex. Security makes user experience more delightable, more satisfied. So the way we see security is, let's say we have a page, I will always use like a financial services app because people don't joke with their money, right? If you are telling me that, oh yeah, we don't want to embed, I don't want to like embed two-factor authentication because it will alter users' experience. But we also need to be aware that people are keeping their money with us and we need to ensure that it is secure as possible. So if trust is being broken at that phase, then it will probably alter the business reputation. So security is not complex and it is not injuring the user experience. Rather, it is supporting it and also helping us to get like more customer trust and also buy-ins from our customers.
Very nice. Do we have any questions?
Hi, Tia. This is Bonnie Moorhead. I haven't seen you guys in a while. Hi,
Hey,
everybody.
Bonnie, welcome back.
Thanks. It's been a journey. I want to say beautiful presentation. Rignat. I'm sorry. Your name is beautiful. I'm struggling, but beautiful presentation. I did want to ask a question. Increasingly, a lot of organizations are depending on third-party vendors and providers to service them. And really, data is going to the cloud, and it's really like a marriage, right? So we can be secure in our own organization, but if we're trusting our data with a third-party vendor,
Yes.
their lack of security planning, to all the points that you made, almost nullifies all of the work an organization can do. Can you speak a little bit about that? Because that's something very tricky, because we need third-party vendors in our organizations, right? In order for us to thrive and grow.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is actually like an interesting one. And thank you for bringing that. There is something called SLA, and SLA is service level agreements. So for service level agreements, if you are working for a third party, before you can actually like move or sign an agreement or work with them, you also need to understand how they are handling their data. All these things are inevitable, but also understanding how they are handling data, what level of security they have, that needs to come into the conversation earlier enough before you even say you want to subscribe into their service, right? You want to know the kind of security measures that they have in place. How do they handle incidents? Do they have like a robust incident response plan? How do they react to it? What are the level of security that they have? And this will be a part of the things that will validate whether you want to move forward with them or not. So I would ensure, or I would suggest that having an understanding of the service level like agreement, the kind of like security that all these products or all the services have, is important before you make the final business decision whether to go with their services or not. And that could even serve as a competitive advantage if you are looking at two providers at the same time and you notice that one actually is giving you a good security confidence than the other. There is an opportunity there to go with the one with like high security profile, and that could be their own advantage. So understanding how they treat data, how they react to incidents is important because you cannot actually prevent that. You cannot actually like prevent that from happening, but you can actually try as much as possible to understand and do your best before you subscribe to it.
Thank you for that answer, especially at the end, because you're absolutely right. Even if you vet the vendor, to the fullest, you have a comfort level, they've proven, above and beyond as much as possible that their security and their processes and their software, all of these things are aligned. They haven't had any breaches, because that's also a part of looking at how many instances they've had. And to your point, you cannot prevent it all, but you can do your due diligence in the way that again, doing your research and really digging deep enough to understand the full scope of that specific vendor in which you're dealing and looking to sign that SLA with. So thank you again for that answer. Again, beautiful presentation, beautiful job. And actually, cybersecurity was one of the exams. I'm crazy. I'm thinking about doing that exam as well. So thank you so much for that. And I may want to talk to you, because also I just want to say, folks, Thea is awesome in the way that she helped me also start carving another path along the of a product owner as well. And I found that of a great benefit to myself. So I may need to talk to you about cybersecurity and kind of adding that. Again, thank you again for having me as a part of this. I love this, and I have to get more active at this point.
Well, we're very glad that you came back, Bonnie.
Awesome. That was a lot. Sorry.
And and as far as financial stuff goes, this is where a lot of the certifications come in. I mean, even at our company, we do a lot of credit union work, and we're working on our SOC 2 certification. So that separates us, like you were talking about, from the other vendors that can do the work. If you have your SOC 2, those are the kinds of things you want to look for in a vendor. Heavy requirements.
Right.
Government work and financial stuff.
And it changes the way you do your work as a business analyst if you're working under a SOC 2, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. And I'm sorry. I will definitely disagree with you on the convenience versus security. You know, I'll admit, long gone are the days where, oh, just email me that file you the import into your CRM system. Those are long gone, but you can't tell me that was definitely less convenient than what we have to do now. Secure sites and uploading files and those kinds of things. So yeah, there's definitely, we have always learned there's always a slide rule in data analysis. The more secure something gets, the less convenient it is, always. If you found a way to break that rule, you would make a lot of money. Because that's been a rule for 30 years.
Yeah. Cybersecurity is going to be one of the leading qualifications people are going to start looking for. Everybody's talking about AI. Cybersecurity is going to be right up there because AI is going to be used against security. You need to understand cybersecurity. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's how you're going to do your penetration testing. You're not going to
Yes.
need that hacker. You're going to need that AI to
Mhm.
hit your system a million times to see if they can get in.
Right.
That's how they do the penetration testing for SOC 2 right now. It's
Right.
no longer, it's people.
So, would you like to tell us one story? We are at time, but I think it's important. Can you tell us one story about what happened if a project does not consider security at the beginning?
Hey, a story. I would say that's like was like that, like the first slide that I opened when I
Mhm.
first presented. That imagine you build a house and you move in before you realize that, oh my God, I actually did not had a window or I did not had a lock to it. A whole lot of things will happen. You are opening up like the whole atmosphere, the whole products to anyone to come in and explore it. Maybe what that sort of like means to me is, does that mean there is no pressures or important data that we are protecting? And that is like a huge one. We are just a step away from being fished or being hacked or being exploited by the bad actors, right? So there are a whole lot of like cases where things like that had happened. Capital One experienced one breach, even though it is not like really. And also, I think there is one that I actually like forgot. And the breach was a whole lot outside the Capital One. It was also because cybersecurity was also like ignored at the very beginning. So there are a whole lot of things, but the foundational part of it is opening up to like vulnerabilities and getting ready to be exploited as early as possible.
Okay, thank you. I see we have a hand up.
Yeah,
What is your question, sir?
Okay, is that for me?
Yes, that's for
yes.
you.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. And Rihanna, thank you for a brilliant submission. And like I was here smiling, enjoying your presentation. That's a good one. And cybersecurity is everyone's business, like I always said, is not the job of cybersecurity professionals alone. And I happen to work in a hospital before now, and I was asking the managers why some loopholes in the system. So he was literally saying that they have to design the system because of the old people working in the system. I see that as something so bad because you don't have to lower your security just because people are old in the systems and all that. As a product person, Rianat, what will you do in that kind of scenario?
I mean, I would say the first thing is training, right? Everyone needs to be trained. And it should be like a mandatory part of the business.
What if a politics come to play in the system?
Okay, yeah, I mean,
Politics in the system.
I would say stakeholders buy-in is an important thing. And because stakeholders sort of like understand numbers, and sometimes the metrics or the ROI of cybersecurity might not be like the money that we are getting from outside, but the money that we are preventing, like the things that we are preventing that could probably make us lose a lot of money. So the first thing or the first approach is getting stakeholders buy-in. If we are able to get the stakeholders buy-in, the high level, the C-suite levels buy-in into cybersecurity, then I don't think anyone would have an issue to comply with it. And that is probably at the level where the politics can come in. So having the mindset of how can I actually ensure that I am speaking cybersecurity in the language that would allow the stakeholders to understand the importance of it. They might probably not understand, or since we are not getting money in it, so why should we? But it can prevent us from losing money, right? So it's just like two-way discussion. So having that discussion with the stakeholder at the higher level is like the first thing. After that, then the other employees, every other subordinates will have to speak the language of the high level of the top executives. So in that kind of understanding or in that kind of scenario, talking to stakeholders, speak their language, let them understand how this is important. Is if you get their buy-in, you're getting every other one's buy-in as well.
I like to require training before they have access to the system. It's like if you want access, you got to have the certification you went through training. I have no control over that.
Yeah, actually.
Do we have any other questions?
Oh,
You know,
I got
Theo, when you, oh, sorry. You know,
No, go
Theo, when
ahead.
you say something like that, one of the things that we run into too is people want to do training too early, or there's always that comment. It's like, well, do you train them when you're building the system, or do you train them when you give them access to the system? Because sometimes that can be months apart. And it's
Sure.
like training them for a system that they can't get into for a month or two is almost just as bad as not
That's
training
true.
them at all, in my opinion.
The timing of the training is critical. It's very strategic.
Yeah, it is. It is really
Yeah,
important.
training is very, very important in cybersecurity, in everything in cybersecurity, because human beings tend to forget, and they
Mhm.
tend to take securities as the jobs of the cybersecurity professional and IT people. And this has created a lot of loopholes in the system. And it's still creating more loopholes in the system because of the hackers. Like you said, hackers are not smart. They are not, they have never been smart. It's just they are using the vulnerability in the people. They tend to use human nature that we tend to forget things. It's just like you are going outside your door, you leave your door open, and you are asking God to protect your house for you. It's not going to work because you refuse to take the necessary step to close that door. And that creates a vulnerability in the system. So training is always going about how do we solve the problem? How do we solve the problem? Because you keep on training people and they keep on forgetting things. So
Mhm.
what should we do in order to address this thing, in order to block these loopholes from happening?
Okay, can I add something here?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is a very interesting question. For me, for example, I work in the higher education industry and in a community college, by the way, that's the IT department. Now, this is separate from industry. Like this is an industry on its own, but a fast-paced industry structure where like in management consulting, we do things quickly, but here we have processes, we have legacy systems that we have to follow. And a ton of the staff that we have in our college, for example, are we have elderly people. Now we have elderly people that are very experienced. I'm not discrediting their age, but I also know that change is hard for so many people. Now, we have something called the vector LMS that we use in our college, like college-wide trainings we have to do, and cybersecurity trainings are part of it. Now, I am guilty in the sense that I haven't even done my training for the year. It's still there. Like I'm like, this is a whole lot of training I have to do. It's a whole lot of modules. So I think for some industries, breaking down the trainings into granular models that people can understand and relate with. Simple pictures, simple videos, not a ton of videos that I have to go watch. Like it's a whole lot of work. The time I'm going to spend watching those videos I've already typed in maybe 4 to 5 requirements, or I've mapped 1 or 2 process models. Like, it feels like a better use of my time. And it's not a good state. That's to be realistic. But if these trainings could be made modular, very simple, easy to communicate, especially because of the kind of industry that I work in. For example, having that kind of training accessible to our adult basic skills instructors, for example, or the ESL instructors, or even the Spanish instructors, that's going to be a lot of work. Like, they have a lot of students that they deal with on a regular basis. Say the ESL teachers, they have students from different ages that they deal with. They do not have the time to sit down and watch some of all these modular training. So if it was relatable, I think it would be very helpful. So it's more of the organization to make the trainings relatable. I think it would be a better solution. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's really like, that's one of like the great things. And just like, I remember when I was working for a company where we were using a waterfall and we wanted to move to agile. The way they introduced agile, even though for the longest times we'll be using waterfall all through, was all like easier for everyone to get adjusted to. And just like breaking things down, like Esther said, especially for people that are not so comfortable with security, we make everyone aligned and come together to say, oh yeah, I enjoy doing this. I mean, cybersecurity can be boring sometimes because who wants to read all those technical stuffs, right? But there's a way you can simplify it. And that also goes to like this training, the education, the stakeholders getting involved. Having the top management's involvement is like a key and important part, because they will make it like enjoyable for anyone to participate. So yeah.
Very nice. Let me copy this link real quick. There, I'm going to drop this into the chat. This is a note about microlearning. Microlearning is just little bitty bites. So people, I don't have time to go to a 30-minute thing. So it's a 4-minute training, just gives you little bites. And Abu, you ask what to do whenever people have problems after they've been through training. I love to set up systems so that if they violate something, they have to go through training again. It gets you an alert that this person's violated it 3 times. That's a business rule. It says you got to go through training. You got to pass training to be able to get access or something like that. It turns into a performance issue. Also, if your organization is able to say we have 100% of the people that have passed training for our security, it looks good for the organization. And people are like, well, I don't want to be the one that makes the organization not be able to pass. So that's, peer pressure is a good thing in some cases.
Yeah.
Any last questions?
I have one quick one. So I actually do work with a lot of third parties, and what would you say that majority from your experience have you seen most security risk? What's something that I could look out for? Because I work with probably like 3 or 4 different, third parties on a day-to-day basis, a lot of integrations and a lot of data, being sent back and forth, APIs, webhooks. What would you say from your recommendation, maybe your experience, you'd say the most leaks you'd see coming out of this?
Yeah, I would say like their data storage is important and incident response. A company that does not have accurate incident response or where they store their data, I want to know where and how they store their data is important. And if they are not able to like talk about how they handle and store and manage data, that could be a big signal, right? You want to know who you want to entrust with that kind of information. And another thing is like I mentioned, is the incident response. You need to know, do they really have an incident response plan in check? If they don't have that, that's another big red flag, because when incident happens, when the attack happens, when they get the breaches, how do they want to respond to it? So those 2 things can be like the first signal into like understanding whether you want to move ahead with them or not. Like their data storage, their incident response plan, right? What are the ways that they handle all these things?
That brings a really good point too, because we work with these third parties. On our side, I guess we never tend to kind of ask how they take care of their data, you know. We have clients that are partnered, but we never really asked the question, you know, kind of opened my mind from all the, you know, everything you've been discussing. When we send over data, what are they doing to store it? What is their security kind of levels, you know, because, you know, the information we send over to them, that's also, you know, we have lots of different reps and consultants and customers in there. We want to make sure that we don't want to get any of that, you know, get lost or traced or somebody else's, you know, takes advantage of it. So you definitely brought a really good point that, you know, maybe I could even bring up, you know, when I
Yeah.
come into these big projects or tasks, you know, ask into these questions a little deeper, make them think too, you know, how good is their security? We're bringing all this data. How is it going to look in the long term? You know, how are we making sure that, you know, nobody gets messed up on the other side? So it's a really
Yeah.
great point.
Yeah.
I think what I would also add to that, and still also taking a cue from the higher education industry, now we have a lot of external vendors. We have different softwares. We have our softwares. Some are like we use an SAS, for example. We have a couple of them. Now, I personally, if I'm working with the vendor, I also appreciate documentation as much as possible. Now we have some databases or some softwares that we use. I get some documentations and I see their data storage policy. I see what they do. I see how they handle the data because I'm in the higher education industry. I am dealing with student information. This is information that doesn't even go to their parents. I'm not like legally, I'm not even supposed to give this information to their parents. So I am dealing with external vendors. I need to understand that I'm not violating any regulatory law. So I need to have those documentations. I need to have those manuals. Now, going through all those manuals, and it's not even helping. Maybe they're not open with it. Now, there are times I can be really firm. Now, these are vendors that our college, for example, has had contracts with even before I joined the organization. Now, I'm handling a couple of projects. I sit on their toes. Like, this is really important. I am a BA. I am an IT project manager, but this is key. So if you do not have any documentation for me, then we need to know the kind of information we're sharing. And for example, if I also need to share data, maybe through, there are times system integrations will come up and this is another system to another system. I already know the data flow. I have the data flow well mapped out. I know the models and everything. Then we also have our own cybersecurity structures that we have implemented as a college that must not be breached by our vendors. So it's like she mentioned, it's an SLA. We have our own, they have their own. We need to come to a common ground. If there is no common ground, there's going to be a problem. And truthfully, the truth is, for most organizations, when there's a cybersecurity breach, the first point of call is actually the cybersecurity team. And that's because many organizations have dumped that responsibility on the cybersecurity team. But remember that if I'm working on an SDLC project, I'm not calling in the cybersecurity team. I am a business analyst. Oh, I'm working on an LMS, a learning management system. Yes, there's a bit of cybersecurity, but they might not be a core part of my project team. I am the business analyst. I need to factor that in my requirements. So that will help me in my vendor selection, my vendor relationship, and whatever I do. I think that's what I want to add. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a question, Rianat. And this question, it's kind of a bit interfield question, have to do with, imagine I'm a cybersecurity person and I'm working in the same organization with a software developer, and you as a product person, and you want to get this product to the market ASAP. And at the point of deploying this product, and I find out that there's a security loopholes, and you want this thing out ASAP, and the developer is telling you that there is no security. In that kind of situation, how would you manage it, knowing fully well that I'm saying the truth, because I know if this thing gets to the market, it will affect the users, it will affect the company reputations, and it will cause a lot of havoc in the system. What will you do as a product person? Because you also want this product outside ASAP.
Yeah. I mean,
Will you
that's
compromise? Will you compromise, let the product out, or rather allow the cybersecurity person to evaluate the product before it goes out?
Yeah, that is an important question. And for that to come out, for the vulnerability to be detected at that level, then it means that maybe it was overlooked from the beginning, right? When I talked about embedding it in the planning, from the planning phase, we are also accommodating for this kind of scenarios. It might not be fully accommodated, but planning from it for the beginning means we are considering this kind of incident happening. So we fix it even before it delays. And when we are planning during our sprint planning, if we add all this kind of security into our sprint planning, it means if we say we are launching this product in 3 weeks, that 3 weeks means we've factored in our security into it. So if this kind of issue happen, it probably means I haven't really considered security as part of my planning. Then I have to talk to the project managers and say, okay, we planned something and this is what happened. And looking at the gravity of what we want to launch and the consequence. So we have to sit down together and look at the consequence. What will it cost us if we roll this feature out? Is it going to cost us a lot? I cannot say we should sacrifice security for speed, but they have to work together, right? So we need to know what this consequence is. How much consequence are we looking at, right? And this thing we want to roll out, how important is it? Is it that it is so crucial that it is delaying the business operation? Are we losing a lot of millions? How do we want to balance the two? Can we do a quick fix and roll over some other thing? But it shouldn't, security shouldn't be like, let's go for speed, right? They have to work together. So I just have to talk to the project manager and let's look at the consequence. And if it is very high, we have to put it on hold.
So, Rianat, let me see if I can summarize. You said so many important good things, but I'm going to summarize high level and tell me if I'm wrong or right. If you're starting a project, at the beginning of the project, identify part of your success factors for the project to include good security and specifically how to measure what good security is for that project. Is that it?
Excuse me. Sorry, I think, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed the last part that you said right now.
Okay. Just basically whenever you're starting a project, identify what your security needs to be for that project, how to measure that security, and be very specific on what that is before you actually develop the project.
Yes.
And then of course measure it with your UAT level and your unit testing and your UAT and everything. The security person needs to be a gatekeeper. It can't go past them if they say no. They are the gatekeeper. They are the guard.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they are the guard. And that is also where collaboration comes in, right? We want to collaborate with them. We want to work together with them. It makes things even like easier to solve at the end of the day because we are not leaving it to them. So what you just said right now, and embedding it in the UAT and making them the gatekeeper means we are looking forward into like cross-functional collaboration and building that relationship. So what I really want to achieve at the end of this is everyone having the mindset of, oh yeah, I need to start building that relationship with the IT team. I know it can be a little bit ugly because everyone has what they want to do. Everyone is, no, this is how I want it to work. No, but having to come together, we all have like a single goal, and that one goal is towards the business. So having and building that relationship from the start is important. So
I agree.
Can I just offer one last thing? And I know we're way over.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Business continuity is also very critical here as a partner to that because I work in utility, and of course we're thinking about it from a different perspective, right? We're trying to protect this asset that's serving a greater population, and so it can be extremely detrimental, right? So I actually had the pleasure of being on the business continuity team and then the subcommittees, and we had tabletop exercises to really kind of work with these various scenarios that we came up with. So to your point, it would be a companion for your own organization. And when I would say vetting vendors. I'm sorry, I can't remember the young man who was speaking about the working with the various vendors. Having your own business continuity, also ask questions about what's their business continuity plan in the event of a potential breach, right? Because they have to get your data, you know,
Right.
back online, make sure it's, you know, cleansed and all this other good stuff. But again, they're being paid to gatekeep the data that, you know, you're allowing them to, you're storing with them. And so it's just, that's just something that in my experience as a business analyst, I found that experience being on the business continuity team invaluable. So it
Yeah.
kind of goes in alignment. So almost everything, believe it or not, I have to catch up with you on a separate thread. I've taken some other classes too. It all kind of merges and marries together. Business
Yeah.
process is an area where I love, but anyhow, business continuity also is just a part of this as well. And I think as business analysts, we'd be doing ourselves a favor. Get yourself on a business continuity committee if you can, because that gives a holistic view of your company. And then by the time you get to the project, as Rianat said, that becomes something that is embedded and threaded in thought. That's it. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Business
that's-
continuity and strategy are awesome places for BAs to be.
Yes, and that's where I lived.
That's a good one. I mean, it's a huge thing in cybersecurity. We have like that big part of like business, we call it BCP, like business continuity plan.
Yes.
Everything like incident response.
Yes, perfect.
Under the BCP. So thank you for making.
Yes, perfect.
And it's good to see that a business analyst is in that part of the business. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, this is a great meeting, I have to tell you. Yeah, I didn't get my background and I didn't want you to see all my closet clothes. So next meeting, don't worry, I'll be on camera.
All right.
Thank you,
Rianat.
everyone. Awesome. Rianat, thank you. Awesome.
Rianat,
Awesome
you did a
meeting you.
fantastic job. Please do send that PowerPoint to me, and anybody who wants it, I'll share it out and put it in our library. This meeting is being recorded, so if you want to watch it again, it's going to be on YouTube by morning, and we'll have that out on LinkedIn. If anyone has any questions for our chapter, contact me directly. If you have any questions for Rianat, I bet you she's on LinkedIn too, and you can contact her.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say I can just like leave my LinkedIn.
Sure.
And if anyone just wants to connect.
That would be great. Drop it in the chat if you wish, and that way everyone can see it. Okay, we will be back next week, and you know what we're going to be doing because I've already told you, but it's going to be great. If anyone is interested in participating in the RACI workshop that's going to be on February 6th, contact the Bluegrass chapter. That's a free workshop. It's a kind of a lunch and learn from 12 until 2 Eastern time, and we will be doing hands-on RACI. And it's not the old RACI that you used to know. This way, I've taken all the ambiguity out of it and created great accountability. It's a great method to do it. So I'll see you there, or I'll see you here on Thursday. Thank you so much, guys. Rianat, thank you again. Bye.